It's showtime.
Hey guys, Django Fett here, Honey Down Games, comics, TV shows, movies, and more, and this is a review for Star Wars Omnibus Menace Revealed. So this is the fourth and last book for the Rise of the Empire era, comic-wise, and I have to review this year. So I already reviewed Rise of the Sith, Emissaries and Assassins, and Quinlan's Voss books, so please check them out if you have missed out on my reviews. I'll put links in the description. Having become aware of an emergent Sith threat by the events in the Phantom Menace, the Jedi perceive a shadow falling across the galaxy, accompanied by increased criminal activity among mercenaries, pirates, slavers, assassins, and bounty hunters. Now the injustice the Jedi fight seems to herald a perilous future, especially when some villains become indistinguishable from the heroes, and some heroes turn out to be villains. So we have 13 total stories in this omnibus, which is awesome, right?
Wrong!
I will just say quality over quantity. So the first story we have is Star Crash, written by Doug Petrick and drawn by Randy Green. This is featured in Republic number 27 and set right after two straight Quinlan Voss stories, and this is a one-off story. Taking place 31 years before the Battle of Yavin, or 1 year after Episode 1, the story focuses on a Jedi named Yoshi, who crash lands on a planet after being attacked, and through a series of events helps the hot elven damsel in distress fight this big baddie and get the girl, sort of. I thought this story was kind of, I can't believe I'm saying it and showing my soft side, sweet. I liked seeing the hero get the attractive princess, and it's happily ever after. Yes, it's cliche, but sometimes it gets me. And this story is one of them. Now, at the time with the Republic series, it's nice to have a break from the continuous run of big stories like the Quinlan Voss stories and the Star Hyperspace War stories, and just chill down with a nice one-off story. So the next is Heart of Fire, but I actually want to skip the story and get back to it after the third story, The Hunt for Aurora Singh. So The Hunt for Aurora Singh is written by someone I have never heard of, Tim Truman, and drawn by David Fabry, whose artwork I always love. And this story is centered in Republic number 28 to 31, and set 2 years after Episode 1. The story focuses on Ashard-Heth, Ki-Adi-Mundi, the Dark Lady, and Adi Gala as they undergo a mission to take down Singh, who recently went on a rampage and killed Republic and Jedi Masters. Now, I remember enjoying this story the first time around, but I have to say, it's a bit of a mess. Aurora Singh somehow knows the Jedi were out to get her, sets up a trap. The Jedi called that Singh surrender, but stupidly enough to know that Singh would do anything but that and nearly destroy them. But they somehow found her, and the Jedi and Mon Calamari somehow intermingle with one another, and they collide with one another, I guess. And with the Dark Lady emerging in, the Dark Lady actually never has to undergo this mission because she's the master of Aurora Singh, actually. So that Singh would kill all of them. The Jedi nearly fail in every fashion, with Adi Gala, a Jedi Master on the Council, stepping on a freaking landmine, but somehow surviving. And Ashard only beats her by hitting her with a pole. Singh is captured, then gets away the next minute, and the hunt was a giant disaster. The story is not creative and pretty much useless. Singh had the upper hand the whole time, and they could not do jack against her. It isn't until the Clone Wars that Aurora Singh would be mentioned in the expanded universe and be stopped and never seen again. Also, whoever is culling the lightsabers for Jedi like Adi Gala and Ashard-Heth, please stop. I keep seeing this everywhere, and it's an error. Jedi never have red lightsabers. They have blue, green, purple, yellow, you name it, but anything but red. It's a recurring theme. I see this constantly with this colorist who is Dave McCaig, who is actually doing the coloring, and he's making this blind error throughout this, and nobody has caught on to it, which is a little baffling. I did like the artwork though, minus the coloring mistakes by the lightsaber. There is one moment that hints at Ashard going down the dark side and playing a part for another important series, but that's about it. So let's get back to Heart of Fire, which is a 3-page story written by John Ostrander and penciled by Jan Drizma, and appeared in 3 parts in Dark Horse Extra number 35 to 37. Dark Horse Extra was a monthly anthology series that contained extra stories provided by Dark Horse staff. So the issue with this story is the placement, which is not 31 years, but 30 years after the Battle of Yavin. So it should take place after the Hunt for Aurora Singh, because it features the Padawan who references her master being killed in front of her by Aurora Singh to Quinlan Vos, which happened in the next story, the Hunt for Aurora Singh. I just don't think Dark Horse did enough research or even read the thing or compiled it properly, because it's pretty clear as day if you read it, but they just must have misplaced it completely. But anyway, this is a short story that has the Padawan talk to Vos about how she believes in Vos and thinks that he will find his former Padawan Ayala Secura, because the story is before darkness, and gives him an item that Ayala gave her and helps to transmit some of his lost memories. And Vos helps her too by coping with her master's death. It's a very short story, but it's definitely worth reading. The next story is Jedi Quest, based on the novel Jedi Quest, Path to Truth by Jude Watson, but in comic form, which is written by Ryder Windham and drawn by, I'm going to butcher this, Mahan. You may not know the name Ryder Windham or might have seen it at some points, but he's actually very important in the EU, as he did create a few stories such as Jedi Quest, Pod Racing Tales, Tales number 3 and 6, Star Wars Adventures, but more importantly, the reference books like the Episode 1 scrapbook, The Secrets of Shadows of the Empire, the Comics Companion, the Complete Visual Dictionary, the Bounty Hunter Code, and most importantly, Jedi vs. Sith, the Essential Guide to the Force. So he's pretty important in the EU realm and knows a thing or two about it. So the Jedi Quest comic is a cut and dry version of the original novel with a very slight changes to character looks. Now, I already reviewed this novel in the past, so I'll not really explain this story or really go in depth, but I will just say that I recommend that you check out my review to this particular book about the story. But if you haven't read the story and want to check out the comic, it's honestly a good read, and seeing the villain Crane resemble the species that were jailers to slavers on the Dark Time series is kind of a neat take. The next is two stories that are connected and written by Ron Mars, set 5 years before episode 2. The first is Django Fett, drawn by Tom Fowler, and the story deals with Django hunting for an artifact, encountering Zam Wessel for the first time. This leads into the Zam Wessel story drawn by Tom Naif, where the artifact delivery goes awry and Django Fett and Zam Wessel team up to do something unexpected and save a planet for good. This also involves a Jedi Master named Jarl Pof, who is featured very briefly in episode 1 as the tall alien Jedi on the Council, and explains why he's not in episode 2. Both are really good stories that actually develop Django and unexpectedly Zam Wessel, who had really nothing beforehand, and develops the bonds between one another. I will say the Zam Wessel story is nothing solely on Zam, but both Django and Zam. I think it was just kind of an excuse to sell copies as a quote origin story, but it really isn't any. Just that Django and Zam meet up for the first time and team up. Next is Bounty Hunters Aurora Singh, set 5 years before episode 2, written and drawn by Tim Truman, which is not something we see, that a writer and artist does everything. That's pretty cool. Aurora Singh is sent by a Murlocan to hunt down targets, and it's not what it seems to be, and the Murlocan had a dirty secret, and Singh has to deal with it. Pretty clear-cut and predictable as hell. And I just did not like the artwork. I got a more horror vibe from that than anything else, and it just looked very ugly. I think it would really fit for a really good horror novel, something like Death Troopers, like a comic based on Death Troopers. I think that would be sick as hell. The last story that I want to address is Starfighter Crossbones, written by my favorite, Hayden Blackman, and drawn by Raymond Box. After the success of the Starfighter video game, which came out in 2001, a spin-off sequel came out a year later to explain more on one major character, Nim, a pirate captain that helped take down the Trade Federation in Naboo during episode 1. Now, unfortunately, most of these events are not brought up in the sequel, Jedi Starfighter, which I believe is better than the first game. I guess it's a spin-off, so it's kind of no longer canon at this point. Also check out my reviews for both Starfighter and Jedi Starfighter while you still can. But I did enjoy this story a lot and think it's the highlight of this omnibus. And if you're unfamiliar with what happened in Starfighter, there's a nice little intro showing you what happened and showing you Nim's past. Nim from the Starfighter series is badass and my favorite character from the series by far, and has a great overall voice actor. In this we get more of Nim being this cunning badass, leading this team of pirates to topple the Trade Federation every chance they get. Now if you're looking for actual Starfighter sections where there's actual space combat, you're going to be disappointed as there's only like 1 to 2 pages of it, and that's it. Honestly, that didn't bother me because that's the basis of both games throughout. There's like no breakup of that at all. Maybe little story sections here and there, but it's just all Starfighter sections. But actually seeing Nim and developing him as a character is all I wanted, and I got it. Also, I felt this story was way too short as it felt rushed towards the end, and it just seems odd to me because this is actually a 3-issue comic series. Just a very odd number for a comic run. Usually it's like 4 to 6 issues, but 3 is just way too short. I just felt like just one more issue would give this series way more justice. And then the rest of these comics I will not even talk about. Poison Moon is a short comic strip, and the rest of them are from Hasbro Toys R Us comic exclusives. They're just based on the movies themselves with no relevance whatsoever. All are completely pointless and not worth putting in the time to read. Just dumb and forgettable. I have no idea why they're in this omnibus for the first place. So what are my overall thoughts of this omnibus? I gotta be honest with you guys. I'm gonna be dead honest and say this is bad. It's one of the worst I have read. I would say 30 to 40% of the stories are actually good, and the rest are just bad. I mean, just a few good stories like Starfighter, Jedi Quest, Django Fett, Zam Weasel, but the rest are just bad and pointless. So my final rating for Star Wars Menace Revealed, the omnibus, is... This is the first omnibus book that I have given a bad rating. I do not recommend this at all, so I will not show prices on eBay or Amazon. Just read a few of these stories online or something like that. It's just not worth buying the omnibus for, even though I think it's pretty cheap online. And that is the last of the Rise of the Empire omnibus book reviews for this year. So if you like this video, please be sure to press that like button, comment down below, let me know what you think of this omnibus if you have read it before. Subscribe to my channel, Django Fett, and I'll see you guys on the next omnibus review. Peace.